Alrighty, hello and welcome back to the 5th NNP Symposium. We are here for our last presentation of the day, so thank you everyone who is delaying dinner to be here if you're on the East Coast. It's getting a little late over here. So a couple reminders, as always, we want to give full credit to EPNIS for funding the NNP Symposium. They enable us to make it free for everyone who participates, so we're very grateful for that. And also a reminder, at the end of this presentation, we will be having a Q&A. So if you have any questions, just click the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. You can type them in there. You're welcome to send them in at any time. We will be answering those at the end of the presentation, so sit tight. I believe that is all that I have. So for this presentation, we are joined by Matthew Tavory talking about coins in revolutionary history. He is a returning presenter and someone that I know fairly well. So Matthew, I will let you take it away.
Thank you very much, Liana. And thank you all for tuning in to Coins in Revolutionary History. So, have to forgive me, I have a bit of a cough going on at the moment. But I decided I wanted to do a presentation on the two things I'm very passionate about, coins and revolutionary history. And it's a very fascinating subject of the two. It's a lot of chaos, a lot of fun, I joke. So let's get in here. Oh, my thing wants to come on. There we go. So a little bit about me. I am a history student at Florida Atlantic University. Go Owls. And I'm a former grader for Numismatic Guarantee Corporation and quality control finalizer there. And I currently am a world coin dealer specializing in revolutionary, siege, and shipwreck coins. And I have been featured in many publications from the New York Times and NPR to the local club publication, the Palm Beach County Coin Club. And I'm also a APMEX approved wholesale dealer. That's a little bit about me. You see my logos down there in the bottom left, and the bottom and the top right is the illustration the New York Times did of me. So fortunately, I'm not that handsome in real life. So let's get started here. What are revolutions? Revolutions are a fundamental and relatively sudden change in political power and political organization, which occurs when the population revolts against the government, typically due to perceived oppression or political incompetence. Revolutions often involve violence and the breakdown of society. And revolutions are always just a fascinating rise up against the tyranny, as I like to jokingly call it. You see here, there's a famous picture here on the bottom right of made 1831 of liberty leading the people. And this paints a great representation of revolutionary politics and post facto, who's in charge and what their views are. So this was actually created by a French painter named Delacroix in 1831 at the cost of 3,000 francs, and it was painted. It was ordered by the new French government under King Louis Philippe, who intended to hang it in the throne room at the Palais Luxembourg following the revolution, the July Revolution, 1830. And before this painting, though, could be hung up, the Revolution of 1832 happened, in which, if anyone's seen Les Mis, this is that revolution where the people attempted to overthrow the July monarchy. And the July monarchy defeated that revolution. So this painting, though, was completed right around then. And instead of hanging it up in the throne room of liberty leading the people, they decided to go ahead and return it to the artist, where it sat in his aunt's basement until 1848, when the people overthrew the July monarchy in the revolution then, and it was then put out for the public to view. So that's kind of a little neat, interesting history with that painting. You see, it's got all the revolutionary images of the tricolor flag, liberty chair bare-chested, leading different people, students, sans-culottes or poor Parisians, into battle to go ahead and overthrow the oppressive restored Bourbons under Charles X. And to the left, we see here a picture taken on December 4th, 1914, Pancho Villa and Emiliano Zapata at the summit at and I do apologize in advance, my Spanish and French will be horrific, Jacques Milko. And during this meeting, we have a firsthand account actually of this meeting due to an American at the meeting. There you go. I have my notes here. I'm going to go ahead and read that. Where are we? After the exchange of a few greetings, these men, who had never seen each other before, but who had been working in accord for some months, locked arms and went to the municipal school building where they could hold a conference. They were ushered into a large upstairs room, which was immediately crowded by 80 persons intimate with the leaders. There were only a few chairs in the room. General Villa and Zapata sat at a large oval table. The two men making a decidedly contrast to my left sat Paulino Martinez, one of General Zapata's close confidants, and a delegate to the convention. Next to him was General Villa, tall, robust, weighing about 180 pounds, with a complexion almost as florid as a German wearing an English helmet, and wearing a heavy brown sweater, khaki trousers, leggings, and heavy riding shoes. Zapata to his left, with immense sombrero, sometimes shading his eyes so that they could not be seen in the dark, with the complexion of a thin-faced man, much shorter in stature than Villa, weighing at roughly 130 pounds. He wore a short black coat, a large light blue silk neckerchief, pronounced lavender shirt, and used alternatively a white handkerchief with a green border and another one with all the colors of the flower. He had on a pair of black tight-fitting Mexican trousers with silver buttons down to the outside seam of each leg. General Villa did not have any sign of jewelry nor any color in his personal adornment, and, quote, they sat awkwardly together, and Zapata decided to loosen things up by ordering some cognac. But there was a little quirk of General Villa, is that he did not drink. So when the cognac had arrived, he did not want to go and be rude to his guests, and he took a shot of it and nearly choked on it, calling for water to help him not die. After half an hour of the halting conversation, the conversation turned to their mutual enemy, Veneciano Carranza. And it was here where things finally lubricated, as Villa and Zapata bonded over complaining about Carranza. Villa said Carranza was high and mighty, and Zapata replied, I had always said so. I have always told them that Carranza was a son of a bitch. Thus, their alliance was cemented by mutual loathing of a shared enemy. And that's always, a lot of way revolutions happen that way. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's the great big idiot who is in power. He often unites the people who are very different against him. And it is in that rebellion often that coins are minted for different reasons. So I create a little chart here on different categories of revolutionary coinage. First, we have coins of necessity, which can take form of military issue and economic issues. Military issue coins can range from needing to pay the army to needing to have coins during a siege to go ahead and facilitate basic life. And economic issue, often I need to go ahead and buy stuff from merchants. How do I going to pay them? I need to create money. We have another kind of revolutionary coins, coins of politics. We have pro-revolutionary coins, counter-revolutionary coins, and the most interesting one is post-revolutionary coins, which are often made after the fact by both factions of the revolutions to go ahead and support their goals or whatever alternative reality they want to create. So first here we have coins of necessity. Coins of necessity arose from difficult situations. These situations would vary from military to economic. A common feature of the coins of these times is their crude conditions minted with inexperienced workers using any materials they could find. This resulted in primitive looking pieces minted in unusual locations such as moving trains and besieged cities. In addition, the minting process would sometimes require hand-carved dies and molds made of sand. As a result, coins can include double and partial strikes, misspelled and partial words, and various planchet sizes. Often the necessary material to make the coins were either confiscated from prescribed individuals such as political opponents and the wealthy, or from superfluous items such as statues and church reliquaries. And here we have two examples of the two kinds of coins of necessity. First here we have to the left, a 1913 Mexican Revolution, Sinaloa Sandcast peso. And the first coins of the Mexican Revolution were minted like that in June and July of 1913 in Sinaloa. These pieces were made from sand casts of the Federal Liberty style cap and rate peso from 1898 to 1908. They were produced from silver taken from the El Rosario mine on orders of General Rafael Buelna to go ahead and facilitate payment to merchants. Howland Wood, in 1916, his book on coins in the Mexican Revolution, estimates only 25,000 of these coins were casted. Most of these coins were actually melted down after the span of a few days because it was found that a large percent of gold was in the alloy, which had not been assayed before the pieces were made. Those coins that did make it into circulation were often melted down by entrepreneurial individuals due to their bullion value exceeding their face value, especially as low valuation of the paper that was being printed out like there was no tomorrow at the time made it very popular to, or very profitable to melt these down. It's also speculated by Carlos Gaitan in his book La Revolución Mexicana y sus Monedas that the pieces were actually minted in 1914 and not 1913. And were also minted in the state capital of Culiacan. And in addition, a 50 centavo piece was similarly poor quality, was also minted by sand casting. Now, coins sometimes also bear the GC counterstamp, which stands for, if you have to pardon my Spanish here. Living in Florida, you only pick up on so much Spanish. Gobierno Constitucionalistas, or constitutional government. It's speculated this counterstamp was done after the Aguas Calientes Convention and the civil war between Pancho Villa's Division del Norte and Veneciano Carranza's federal government. But this is just an interesting example of make it, quality is not there. Is it silver? Yes. Is it everything? Yes. Pay the merchants. We need to get our guns and bullets. And to the right here, we have from the revolutions of 1848 in Italy, a Roman Republic by ocho. Now, when the revolutions of 1848 occurred, the people of Rome had kicked out the Pope and proclaimed a new republic. And the Pope being under the protection of the Austrian Empire the Austrian army was soon marching down Italy. After they defeated the Kingdom of Piedmont Sardinia at the Battle of Novara in March 22nd of 1849, the Austrian army marched down to the Roman Republic to restore the Pope on the seat of St. Peter. Standing in their way, though, was the city of Ancona, where this coin is from. And the Austrian commander, General Radetzky, laid siege to the city by land and sea, cutting off from the vital supplies. On the 9th of April, 1849, the Austrians began bombing the city to pressure it to surrender. Now, while this was happening, the defenders needed to go ahead and be paid. So the commanding general went ahead and confiscated the bronze medal from the bell in the church tower and melted it down and casted it into bronze coins to pay the troops. Interestingly, the general had the dies of the regular Roman Republic coins, but to distinguish his issue from the regular issue, beside its crudeness, you can see at the bottom of the far right image at 6 o'clock, there is this extra A there, right over there. So that is how you distinguish this issue from the regular issue. And the siege only lasted 9 days. And after the Austrian victory, most of these coins were confiscated and melted down by the Austrians as being counter-revolutionary. And it says Republica Romana on the obverse, and it has the fasces, which is a ancient Roman symbol of power. You'll notice the fasces, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I do apologize if I'm not, is a very common theme in a lot of revolutionary coinage. Now, in the 1940s, Benito Mussolini's fascist government seized it and made a symbol of fascism, but prior to that, it was a symbol of Roman power and virtue. So let's get here. Now, military issue necessity coins. Now, there's two kinds of military issue necessity coins. One's used to finance the army, and one's used during sieges. Coins used to finance the army were close to contemporary standard issue coinage. These coins would often be used by the army to pay their suppliers and soldiers. The expectation of these coins was to eventually end up in civilian hands. Coins made during sieges were often of unique shapes called clippies. You can see in the bottom right there, and had overvalued denominations. These coins were meant only for use in the city with the intention they'd be exchanged for their true value following victory. And we have two great examples here. You can see Clippy in the bottom right here. It's that weird shape. And this coin here is denominated at 9 pence. What's the actual silver value of it? Probably it's only got about 4 pence worth of silver in it. But the purpose is for it to offer an incentive for victory. If you want to get your true 9 pence value of silver of this coin, you have to win the siege, win the battle, so we can go ahead and exchange it for your 9 pences, because if you lose and you have to melt down this coin, you're only going to get about 4 pence worth of silver there. And oftentimes the clippy shape made it very hard for it. Let's say if the city fell during the siege, the victorious army would go ahead and seize these coins. And if you want to spend them as is, you bring it to a regular merchant. They're going to go, well, this isn't round. I've never seen this before. I'm going to not give you its true value for it. And it's, oh, what? It's overvalued. It says 9 pence, but it's only got 4 pence worth of silver. That's not right. So it's a very much incentive for victory. And to the left here, we have a 1927 Nicaragua Sandino Rebel gold 10 peso. Now you might be going, that doesn't look like gold. That looks like, for lack of a piece of term, a piece of crap. And it is. It's actually made out of lead. So I've actually have been lucky to get one of these in a deal once before. They're incredibly rare. So in 1926, a coup with the support of the United States was launched in Nicaragua to install a pro-American business regime in the country. This happened only a year after the United States ended its 13-year occupation of Nicaragua, which was part of what's collectively called the Banana Wars. A small rebel group of a few hundred, led by Augusto Sandino, went into rebellion against the new government, and by 1927 occupied most of the north. Now, in response to this new occupation, to this new rebellion, United States authorized a force of 1,000 Marines to go fight the Sandino rebels. Now, during the campaign in 1927, the Sandino rebels captured the American-owned San Albino gold mine. Now, the rebels were in desperate need of supplies and resorted to looting the mine of everything. Copper to make bullets, brass, gunpowder to make blasting charges, everything, and even the gold. But the rebels didn't want to go ahead and sell the gold. They wanted to keep the gold for themselves. So Augusto Sandino authorized the melting of lead water pipes into coins. And he had this 10 peso here struck out of the old lead water pipe. It is rumored that a few pieces were also struck out of the gold seized, but there's no evidence of this. Now, the Sandino lead coins were inscribed RDEN 10 pesos oro, and oro mean gold in Spanish on the obverse, and Indinos DEAC Sandino on the reverse. It's believed that only a few hundred of these coins were minted, and less than 10 of these coins actually survive today. In fact, there's actually 2 different die varieties of these. This is a normal dollar sign, and then there's a retrograde dollar sign with it being flipped backwards. And all these pieces are very crudely cast. The coins are slightly larger than a quarter and 3 times as thick and are barely legible. Augusto Sandino dictated that the coins were to trade as if they were made of gold, and he made a practice of inspecting villages. And if he did not find his money in circulation, he would kill the offenders. Now, the United States Marines, if they found people with these lead coins, they might too kill them as being suspected rebels. With the U.S. intervention in 1927, the Marine force was led by General M. Stanley Newton, and he was sent to Nicaragua, and he acquired 2 of these examples. Now, General Newton just so happened to be neighbors and friends with Ken Brissett. We all know Ken. He's a wonderful individual. He's the writer of the Red Book and everything. And upon General Newton's death in 1967, his widow gave Ken the 2 examples. Now, since then, another 3 examples have showed up in auction. And then there was this example from a private collection I had bought down here in Florida that the gentleman purchased from an individual in Nicaragua in the 1980s. And it's an incredibly cool piece, cool revolutionary history. if you didn't accept it for its value in gold, you could get shot. And if you did accept for its value in gold, you would get shot by the Americans then. So it's like a catch-22 lose-lose situation there. So then the other kind of necessity coins would be economic issue. Often during revolutions, there was a shortage of coins. They start printing like their money, paper money, like there's no tomorrow, and people start hoarding coins because they fear the paper money is worthless. And to remedy this problem, base metal coins would be minted and backed by laws guaranteeing their value. These coins were meant for everyday use and often circulated heavily. Now, after a change of power, the coins of the previous regime would also be removed from circulation. And to prevent economic collapse, they'd have to go mint new coins or paper money rapidly. And a great example of this is the L'An 2, year 2, 1793 to 1794 France sold. And you might notice that thing is in horrific condition. I believe that that piece used to be in my collection. It was great. I think fine 15, and it was the finest one certified, which should say something about how heavily circulated it is. You see, it's got the pharyngeal cap on the reverse with the scales, 1S, 1 sol, and the obverse features the Constitution of 1791. And that's just heavily circulation, replaced the coins of the old French monarchy with these new Republican coins. Now to the left, some of you might be going, hey, that coin there to the left in the PCGS slab is from 1982. That's pretty modern. I didn't know they made revolutionary coins then, but they did. So that coin is actually from the New Hebrides, modern day Vanuatu or Vanuatu. I don't know how you pronounce it. And it's a little interesting side history with this. So in 1980, the New Hebrides gained its independence from France and changed its name to Vanuatu or Vanuatu, whatever it is. During the independence movement, the island Espiritu Santo tried to gain independence from Vanuatu. I'm just going to call it Vanuatu. And this little independence movement is called the Coconut War. And it was led by an individual named Jimmy Stevens. And Vanuatu had Papua New Guinea soldiers occupy the islands to go ahead and prevent civil unrest. Now, it's called a war, even though it was civil disobedience, is the best way to describe it. And the residents of Espiritu Santo welcomed the Papua New Guineans as either fellow Melanesians. Now, Stevens' followers were only often armed with bows and arrows, rocks, and slings, and there was very few casualties. And the war came to a sudden end in late August when Stevens' son drove through a roadblock put up by the Papua New Guinean soldiers, and he was killed. And Stevens soon surrendered after that, and saying he never intended to hurt anyone. But then here is where this coin comes in. Stevens was put on trial, and it was during the trial that it was revealed that France was trying to keep the New Hebrides or at least Espiritu Santo as a colony, just make that the New Hebrides on itself. And in preparation for this, thinking they were going to succeed, they minted 1 franc coins and 5 franc coins. And when this revolution came out, the French started melting these things down to go hide their involvement. And fortunately, a few did get out, and they're incredibly rare pieces. And there's speculation on if other denominations were minted. We know for a fact the 1 and the 5 were minted, but I don't believe any 5 franc pieces ever escaped from the French mint. I stand correct. My notes say there's a few examples of the 5 franc pieces minted, that have escaped. There's also been cataloged a 2 franc coin, but it's unconfirmed if it was actually struck or all examples were melted. And a 10 and 20 franc coin was also listed in some catalogs, but it's likely an error because it's not confirmed those are struck as well. I'd like to thank Jay Turner for most of the research on that piece. So definitely an interesting piece. Go check out his article in Coin World and the PCGS website if you want to read more on that. Now we get to coins of politics. During revolutions, it was important to spread your political message to the masses. And one way to do this was through coins that would feature revolutionary iconography. These pieces served as propaganda for the issuing authority. Political messages depicted pro and counter-revolutionary messages, and coins of this type, and coins that the opposing faction would often be outlawed on pain of execution when the old faction was overthrown. Now, this battle for competing political messages on coins did not cease once a revolution was over. Post-revolution, opposing factions would continue to mint coins either praising revolutionary figures and their actions or ex post facto creation of fantasy pieces from a reality that did not happen. And two examples of this are the six livres from France in 1793 and the 1849 Roman Republic 20 by 8. The 1849 Roman Republic 20 by 8 has it on the obverse. Looks like a wolf with two babies. And if anyone knows Roman history, that is Romulus and Remus and the Capitoline she-wolf. Now, tradition goes they were the sons of the daughter of the king Numitor at the time, and Numitor was deposed by his younger brother, and he had ordered his two nephews to be murdered, but his supporters just left them on the side of the riverbank, thinking they would drown, but they didn't. A she-wolf came along and nursed them till a farmer found them and raised them as his own. And that's a popular Roman, might get in trouble with a Roman history person here and say myth there of Romulus and Remus. And Romulus would go on to to found Rome on the Seven Hills after he killed Remus for jumping over his wall. But fortunately, they didn't think that was good messaging for Italian unity, so they didn't put that on the coin. But they put the Capitoline she-wolf and Romulus Remus on there as a message of pro-Roman. And the reverse says pro-defensi deficit. I'm going to butcher this Italian. Basically, it says for the defense of the Republic of Rome. I do apologize to anyone who speaks Italian out there. And to the left here, we have a six livre from France in 1793. And it features the winged genius writing the Constitution of 1791 with the fasces to the left wearing the pharyngeal cap on top. And we said the fasces was a ancient Roman symbol of authority and power. And the pharyngeal cap came to prominence during the French Revolution. It was often a sign of the sans-culotte, or lower classes workers in Paris. And then to the right of that, we see the rooster, which would become the symbol of France. Actually, today, it's still the symbol of France, of the French Republic. See where it says République Française, year 2 of the revolutionary calendar. And next year, we got pro-revolutionary coins of politics. This is probably one of my favorite revolutionary coins ever, the Muera Huerta peso. Now, pro-revolutionary messages on coins often projected power of the revolution. Example of this is Pancho Villa's Muera Huerta peso. This is a coin of the most startling pro-revolutionary coins. It literally calls for the deck of the counter-revolutionary dictator of Mexico, Victoriano Huerta. Now, Villa had no love for Huerta, as before Huerta's coup. They butted heads a little. Now, we'll go into that story here. Prior to the Mexican Revolution beginning in 1910, Mexico was ruled by a dictator, Porfirio Diaz, for 31 years. The Porfiriato, as it was called, was about order and business. And by the end, despite President Diaz's promise to open elections, the opposition, led by Francisco Madero, was arrested and the election was rigged. In response, Madero, in the plan of San Luis, called for the rebellion against the Porfiriato. And by May 1911, Madero, with the help of caudillos Pascual Orozco and Pancho Villa, overthrew the Porfiriato. However, Madero then turned his back on his allies and tried to appease old Porfirians, as they were called. This infuriated Orozco, who then went into rebellion against Senor Madero. Now, to crush this rebellion, he appointed Victoriano Huerta, an old general from the Porfiriato, to go and beat this rebellion, and he put Pancho Villa under his command. Villa and Huerta really disliked each other. And on February 9th, 1913, I got my date wrong there. In June of 1912, while they were fighting Orozco in the mountains, Huerta went ahead and heard that Villa had requisitioned or stole a horse from a local. He confronted Villa, and sources are disputed, but the most common telling is Villa then punched Huerta in the face. Huerta then court-martialed Villa for treason and insubordination and ordered his execution. And this picture to the bottom left was taken right before Villa was to be executed by Victoriano Huerta. However, couple of Madero's brothers were in camp, and they sent off a telegram like, hey, you need to stop this. So literally about 5 minutes before his execution, right when this picture was taken, a telegram came in pardoning via, or commuting via sentence from execution to imprisonment. And so you can tell Huerta and Villa had no love lost. So then in February 9th, 1913, Huerta launches own coup against Madero. It's called the 10 Tragic Days. And he succeeded in Madero, forcing Madero to resign, and then he executed Madero and his vice president. In response to this, Pancho Villa, who had escaped from prison by now, went ahead and launched the Division del Norte to go ahead and save Senor Madero's legacy. And during his rebellion, he minted this coin to go ahead and spread his message. And the reverse literally says, Muera Huerta, death to Huerta. And it's just a most stunning pro-revolutionary message of literally death to the dictator. Huerta was so enraged by this that he decreed by law that anyone found in possession of this coin was to be executed on site, no trial. And he really did not like that. It's just these coins are always very popular. I've owned one in the past. They're very expensive now. The market's gotten very hot on them. But stunning message of pro-revolutionary politics. Then we get to counter-revolutionary coins. Often during revolutions, the ousted faction and foreign powers have launched their own rebellion against the revolution. Much like coins made by pro-revolutionary forces, counter-revolutionary coins spread political messages. These coins are often defaced pro-revolutionary coins and feature either derogatory messages of revolutionary figures or celebrations of restoration of order by the counter-revolution. Now, a common problem amongst these counter-revolutionary coins is the lack of primary sources, leading to disagreement among scholars of their exact meaning and purpose. A good example of this is to the right, the 1815 francs Vendée 5 franc coin there. And if you'll notice my description, it's this cage lion, parentheses, owl, question mark. And it says Vendée, question mark. And there's no universal consensus on the meanings of this. Originally, it was thought to be an owl, but new research from Descartes and Forestier demonstrate that it's actually a tiger in a cage. And it originally was believed it was made by Catholic rebels in the Vendée, which is in the far west region of France, after Napoleon came back from his exile in Elba. Now, Vendée during the French Revolution had been very anti-revolutionary, very pro-Bourbon, very pro-Catholic, and they had gone to rebellion in 1793 in a very bloody rebellion. But in 1815, it was alleged that at least 47 of these coins were countermarked there, though it's been said it's also happened in the region of Brittany. Now, there's one countermark placed over the ear and another one, a rectangle placed over the eye to blind the emperor. Now, in their study in revenue numismatique in 2004, Calata and Forcier demonstrate that it was indeed a tiger's head instead of an owl. Now, 4 different punches were used, and these countermarks were made to disgrace Napoleon following his forced abdication. And there's a total of 47 of these coins known. And today, till this day, there's still no agreement over the exact purpose other than it was meant to insult Napoleon. Who made it exactly, the exact purpose, or the exact, what's even the punches are. No one can agree. I mean, if I'm being honest, that does look like an owl, not a caged tiger, but Calata and Forcier's research is pretty interesting. And to the coin to the left of that, it's 1889 Haitian counter-revolutionary rebellion by General Hippolyte Gourde, and it's counterstamped on a uniface 2 decime pattern. Now, following the diplomatic recognition of Haiti in 1862 by the United States, plans were drawn up by the American government to gain a 99-year lease of a naval base in Haiti. And during this period from the 1850s to 1934, the United States would often use local rebellions and sanctions and gunboat diplomacy to bend Haiti to their will. One instance of this was General Hippolyte's rebellion. Now, General Hippolyte had first rebelled against President Salomon in 1888, and then when President Salomon was overthrown by a different rebellion, by General Legitime. I'm going to mispronounce this horrifically. When General Legitime became president in 1889, Hippolyte continued his rebellion. And it is alleged that Hippolyte promised a 99-year lease on a naval base in Mole San Nicolas to the Americans in return for financial and military support. General Hippolyte's rebellion was successful, and during his rebellion, he seized the Treasury building in Port-au-Prince. And after he gave out all the gourds, which a gourd is a large silver coin about Morgan dollar size, he still needed more coins to pay his supporters. So he took any pattern, mostly 2 and 1 decime pattern coins, and he counted stamped them with BP 1G GLH, or Bon pour 1 gourd General Hippolyte, and with the promise of exchange for its true value in silver after the rebellion. And he did this to roughly 100 coins, most of them on patterns, but few are known on standard-ish circulation coins. Today, there's only 10 known surviving, 9 on patterns, 1 on a regular issue coin. Now, following Hippolyte's inauguration, I'm sorry, someone say something?
Yes, your camera has turned purple.
My apologies, I have my camera. Oh, I am not sure. My apologies.
Typically, that solves a lot of problems.
There we go. My apologies about that. It's the American government does not like me talking about when they try to strong arm Haiti for a naval port. That's why they're doing it. Where was I? So after General Hippolyte's successful counter rebellion, he refused to go ahead and give the Americans the naval base at Mole San Nicolas. And this really pissed off the Americans. And this also pissed off the Americans. Initially sent the Consular General to Haiti, Frederick Douglass, the famous abolitionist, to go negotiate for the port, but he was so disgusted by American actions that he resigned in protest. And next, the U.S. tried gunboat diplomacy, sailing 4 ships of the White Squadron to Haitian waters, with the U.S. Rear Admiral demanding the lease of the port, or he would open fire. Well, President now Hippolyte refused and called their bluff. So the Americans went ahead and sailed away and launched another counter-revolutionary rebellion against Hippolyte. And Hippolyte would actually die of disease while fighting that rebellion. But the United States would keep on going through this cycle and would eventually actually invade Haiti after the murder by mob violence of the president in the French embassy at the time. And the United States would occupy Haiti from 1915 to 1934 to guarantee American business interests. And just interesting example of counter-revolutionary coins. And that example, actually, I used to own that example. It has now been placed with a collector who may be watching right now. So, sir, congratulations on buying a very interesting coin there. See if we can, oh, now my keypad doesn't want to work. Liana, if I could just get a little help here, I'm trying to go to the next slide.
Yes. So have you tried clicking on the slide?
Yep. Oh, there we go.
There it goes.
Slow. Sorry. Now we have post-revolutionary. Oh, whoops. Oh, I went too far. Sorry. Post-revolutionary issue coins. Now, after the revolution has concluded, the battle over its legacy continues. In coins that takes the form of modern commemorative restrikes and fantasy pieces. These coins attempt to create a revisionist history of revolutions to either influence current politics or to change the historical narrative. Now, example of this are the coin on the bottom left and to the right are kind of tied together. Start off with the bottom left here, the 1831 France Henri V Legitimist Pretender 5 franc. Now, this is from post-July Revolution. So the July Revolution happened when the restored Bourbons under Charles X passed the 4 Ordinances, which basically was a royalist coup suspending their parliament. I forget it was Chamber of Deputies at the time is what it was called, and creating martial law and the king had all power, despite their, in theory, constitutional monarchy. And the people went ahead, mostly led by liberals in the National Assembly, or in the constituent, I forget which one it is. There's so many national assemblies in France. They change names every 5 minutes too. I'll have to go, I don't see anything I have in my notes. But the assembly went ahead and delegates met, and street fighting had broken out by this time. And they had offered the throne to the Orleans cousin of the king, the Duc d'Orléans, Louis Philippe. And they were fearing that this would devolve into another republic. So Louis Philippe became lieutenant general of the realm before he became king of the French. But so Charles X was forced to abdicate, but he did not abdicate in favor of Louis Philippe. He abdicated in favor of his grandson, Henri V, the Duc de Berry. And the Duke Bourbon Legitimists, as they're called, minted a bunch of coins actually in favor of Henri V, proclaiming him as King of France. Now, this was not reality. Henri V would never become King of France, and we'll get back to him later. But at the same time as this is happening, we have this coin to the right being made. Now, it's dated 1815. However, it is from the 1830s, and it says it's from Elba, but it's most likely minted in Austria, actually. And this piece is incredibly rare. I actually bought this. This piece was in a collection I purchased along with that Sandino lead 10 peso. Collection had a lot of amazing coins in it, but this piece was minted sometime from 1830 to 1833, and by supporters of Napoleon II, Napoleon I's son that he had with the Archduchess of Austria at the time. He was living in exile in Austria. Supporters of Napoleon II probably minted this around 1830, 1833, after the fall of the Bourbons, in hope that he would become the king of France. Now you'll see it says N star Elba. It's pretending to be from Napoleon's 10-month rule of Elba in 1815, but Napoleon never minted coins during then. And this coin is actually incredibly rare. To my knowledge, it is the only one known, and it is actually the Mazard plate coin in the catalog. And this exact coin actually sold for 1,000 francs in a French auction in 1903. And then it sold again in an auction in 1980. And the individual who bought it in that 1980 auction sold it to me and a dealer friend of mine who bought the collection recently. And it's actually currently, if you wish to buy this incredibly rare revolutionary coin, it is coming up in an upcoming Kunker auction in Germany, and with an estimate of 3,000 euros. So go bid on that. I don't think they publish it I don't think they've announced it to the public yet, but it's an incredibly rare revolutionary coin. And it's just a nice fantasy piece pretending from being Napoleon's reign in Elba. But getting back to Henri V, Henri V, this is not his only, I don't have an image here, but it's not the only fantasy post-revolutionary coins he made. Following the Franco-Prussian War in 1870 and the fall of the Second French Empire of Napoleon III and the fall of the Paris Commune, the monarchists led by Adolphe Thiers went ahead and offered Henri V to become King of France in 1872. And there were several pattern coins with an updated older bust of him minted. And here, let me go check my. However, Henri V refused to become, or insisted that if he became king, he would only accept on the condition that France abandoned the tricolor flag associated with the Revolution and the Napoleons and return to the fleur-de-lis white flag of the Bourbon. And he rejected a compromise where the tricolor would stay and the fleur-de-lis with the white background would be his personal flag. And that literally was the only reason he did not become the King of France in 1872. And Pope Pius IX, upon hearing this, would famously remark, and all of that for a stupid napkin. So that's another interesting, there is a 1872 issue of that. And then above that, we have a dated 1934, but really from the 1960s, China Sichuan Shanzi Soviet 200 cash restrike. And originally during Chairman Mao's Long March, they had minted silver coins with the hammer and sickle in the globe and copper coins, particularly his 200 cash coin. Well, in the 1960s, a bunch of these, of all the different denominations, all in copper, were restruck for people during the Cultural Revolution to show their pro-revolutionary will and everything. Please don't purge me. I'm part of the revolution. I'm not counter-revolutionary. So this is one of those restrikes from them. And these are fairly cheap coins. They only go for about $100 roughly. So it's a nice little interesting piece of post-revolutionary. I'm pro-revolution. Don't go ahead and purge me during the Cultural Revolution. But it's not the most interesting post-revolutionary issue, though, has to be from the Mexicans. So you see here to the right, a 1985 Mexico 500 peso celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Mexican Revolution. And on it, we have Emiliano Zapata, Francisco Madero, Veneciano Carranza, and Pancho Villa on the obverse. And I imagine all four of those individuals right now are spinning in their graves if they ever knew that they were all in the same coin. All four of these guys pretty much hated each other. Carranza famously said of the Zapatistas, "Give me an 18-cent rope and the nearest tree and I will solve my problem," of Zapata. Villa famously had a plan where he would go ahead and ride down to Mexico disguised, kidnap Carranza, bring him to Zapata, and they would execute him for betraying the revolution. Madero never trusted Carranza because Carranza, before the revolution, was a member of the Porfiriato and actually a senator for them. And the only way Carranza actually became part of the revolution really was the Porfiriato chose another man over him for an important position. So he supported Madero, and when Madero was killed, he became El Jefe, the first chief of the revolution, because he was the only governor who declared he was in insurrection against General Huerta after his coup. And Zapata had no love for Madero because once Madero became president, he refused to compromise with Zapata. He insisted Zapata lay down his arms before he would grant him any of his reforms. Villa was saved by Madero from execution from Huerta, but he was not pardoned. He sat in prison until he escaped. And Carranza ended up being killed because he tried to stay in power and have Obregón jailed, which Obregón's not on this coin, which I find kind of interesting, is Obregón was the true winner of the Mexican Revolution, to be honest. And to the right, or to the left here, we have a painting, The History of Mexico, which is made by the Mexican government after the revolution to show its history. And see in the middle there, it shows the Mexican Revolution. And Mexican Revolution is one of those interesting ones of what begins the revolution, what ends the revolution. Everyone can agree the Mexican Revolution begins with Francisco Madero's plan of San Luis Potosi. But when does the Mexican Revolution end? It's one of those weird things. Does the plan end with the plan of Iguala, with Álvaro Obregón becoming president? Well, the violence still happened after he became president. Villa might have laid down his arms and been pardoned, and Zapata might have been dead, and the Zapatistas might have recognized the government. However, there was still fighting going on. Felix Diaz, the nephew of Porfirio Diaz, was leading a rebellion down in Tampico. And shortly after, the Álvaro Obregón and his successor, Eli Calles, would go ahead and launch anti-Catholic laws and would start what's called the Cruzero War, which lasted until 1929 and would actually result in a hardcore Catholic murdering Obregón. It's one of those things where revolutions are very much based off of the contemporary political view. Now, the Mexican government today is trying to show this happy everyone, though they fought for their rights, so you don't have to rebel anymore. Or the Mexican government at the time. It just so happened that the Mexican government became a one-party dictatorship under the PRI, which became a kind of technocratic one-party dictatorship. The party was above all. And they went ahead and actually buried Madero, Carranza, and Villa in the National Palace in Mexico City. And they've been trying, Mexican governments till this day, keep on trying to have Zapata interned in the National Palace along with them. And Zapata's family refuses because they do not represent what Zapata wants. And it's one of those things, just trying to change the revolution after the fact. They're trying to put this message of, you don't need to go fight. We did it. They did it. Yay. Everyone's happy, honky-dory. They all hold hands and skip down the road. So it's just one of those interesting things. You see it's on the coins there as well, them trying to share that message. So go last slide. And I'd like to thank the following individuals and organizations for helping me with research, everything, just inspiration, education. You see, there's several of my professors at Florida Atlantic University. Dr. Korshak's on there, author of Siege Coins of the World from 1453 to 1902. Go buy his book if you haven't. It's a great read. Special thanks to Jay Turner, Zach Tate, Stanley Chu, and to the Newman Portal for putting on the seminar. So that is my presentation. Thank you all for tuning in. And if we have any questions.
All right, so we'll go into the Q&A. Matthew, you can go ahead and stop your screen share. It should be a red button up at the top that says stop share.
Yep, got that.
All right. And then audience members, there's that Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Just click on it and you can type in your question. They will all be shared anonymously, so you don't need to worry about whether or not that is checked. I won't be reading off any names. So we have one already in here. Go ahead and send in more. To start off with, what got you interested in revolutionary coins?
Ooh, that's a good one. So what got me interested really was Mike Duncan of the Revolutions podcast and author of The Hero of Two Worlds, the Marquis de Lafayette and the Age of Revolution. He's a great podcaster, great historian. He also has done the History of Rome podcast. I remember, so when I started listening to him, I was actually sitting at when I was working at NGC, listening to this while I graded, and I'm like just fascinated by the history. And then I'm grading some of these coins. I'm going, wait, this is from that revolution. And I went down the rabbit hole from there. It's definitely, it's a great topic and neat history that you can hold in your hand.
For sure. Do you recommend any books for a beginner student of revolutionary coins?
Ooh, that's a good one. Definitely, let me go see if I have it here. I mentioned earlier Siege Coins of the World. It's on Siege Coins, but there are sieges that are revolutionary. And it's from Dr. Lawrence Korshak. You can buy it on C&G for $90. And it features short little histories about the siege. This one's from the Siege of Cattaro. This would be a revolutionary coin minted by Napoleon's soldiers. That's definitely one great book. Money of the Mexican Revolution by Don Bailey and Flores is another great one. Howland Wood's book, written in 1916, Coins of the Mexican Revolution. Let me go see if I have it here. Mexican Revolutionary Coinage. Another great source. Is a little bit of a dry read, and it's literally was written in 1916, but you can find it online, a new copy of it. It's a great example. And I would probably, there are more copies I'm trying to find here off the top of my head. I have my library behind me, so I'm just trying to find. I'm sure there's more. If I find another, I will let you guys know. But there's definitely just, I think, here we go. Here we go. Here's another one. I'm not going to try to pronounce the Spanish. I'll just let you guys figure it. It's got Zapata's face on it. And it's in English too, which is makes it a lot better than having to translate.
Would the coins of the Spanish Civil War of 1936 to 37 qualify as revolutionary pieces? And would you add some of them to a future version of this presentation?
Now, that's an interesting question. So the 1936 Spanish Civil War. I think let me go ahead and change this question a bit. What makes a revolution, and what not makes it a war of independence or a civil war for power? I would classify a revolution in the scientific sense is you start from one point, you turn a 360, you're back at the same point. Mexican Revolution, you started with a party dictatorship under Porfirio Diaz and ended up with a dictatorship under the PRI. French Revolution, you started with the Bourbons, and through a republic and an autocratic Napoleon, you ended back up with the guy's literal brothers on the throne. everyone likes to classify the American War of Independence a revolution. I consider that more as a war of independence, and I don't call it the American Revolution, because a revolution is I consider revolution a bottom-up change against autocracy or that idiot in power who is so incompetent he brings different forces together that would not be united politically if it was not for the common denominator of that idiot in power. The Spanish Civil War of 1936, for those who don't know, was first originally Spain was in a period called the Dicta Blanda, or soft dictatorship. And I forget, there was a Catholic admiral that got blown up, but during the period leading up to the Civil War, and left-wing parties eventually came into power. And what is the name? I didn't come prepared for the Spanish Civil War, so I'm doing this all from my memory right now. The Phalangists, that's who they were. Went ahead, their leader was murdered by a left-wing radical, and the Spanish Army of North Africa, led by General, the dictator of Franco, General Franco, led a rebellion against this left-wing government. And the left-wing government fought back against General Franco, but they lost. But during the war, a lot of local coins were minted. I would not classify them as revolutionary coins, just because I don't classify the Spanish Civil War as a revolution. I classify it as a political civil war between left-wing and right-wing. And they'd be economic issues for that. They were not meant to pay the soldiers. They were just meant to facilitate local commerce due to a hoarding of coinage.
All right. Then looks like that's it for now. So I'm going to go ahead and run through our closing things. And people in the audience, go ahead and send in any last minute questions you have, and we'll get back to them here in just a minute, or we'll close it out. Depends if there's anything else in the Q&A. If not, thank you, Matthew, for taking the time out to present. I always love having some kind of more history-focused presentations mixed in here. So it was great to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's certainly a topic I'm passionate about and I always have fun with.
Mm-hmm. And for everyone watching, thank you for sticking with us. We very much appreciate it. And we will be back tomorrow, bright and early in the morning for some of you, if you're on the West Coast especially. 10 a.m. Eastern, we're kicking off with Mark Lovemo and William Hyder tomorrow. So take a look at your schedules, decide if you want to get up in time.
I think we got a few more questions in there.
We just have an excellent in there. There we go. We have some comments in the Q&A.
Oh, compliments. Okay. Thank you guys very much.
All right. Then
I can see the questions now. Oh, yes, I am butchering the names horrifically. Okay. Yes, I did warn you guys. My pronunciation would be atrocious.
It's hard when you're used to reading everything and then suddenly have to say it. It's like, wait a minute, what is Okay, let's see. Tomorrow we will be announcing this on our social media in the morning. But our last presentation of tomorrow with the Point Show podcast will have a special guest on it that has not been announced. So you should all tune into that one to catch the special guest. I promise most of you will recognize him. It's very
Is it Ken Brissett?
I shall say nothing.
My money's on Ken Brissett. I'll leave it at that.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.
Find out. Alrighty, then that's going to wrap us up for today. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back bright and early in the morning.
Thank you. Ciao.